The sea narrows. The ship is moving fast now. On one side, a wall of rock rises from the water. On the other, the sea itself seems to breathe. Then it begins to pull. The men hear it before they understand it. A roar from below, a whirlpool opening like a wound in the ocean. Odysseus has been warned, do not go too close to Charybdis, do not look too long at Scylla, but the ship has to pass somewhere. And in the space between two monsters, the most famous journey in Greek literature suddenly feels less like myth and more like a place you could sail through today, because this narrow waterway has a real candidate. The Strait of Messina between Sicily and southern Italy. And that raises a strange question. How much of the Odyssey can you still visit? Not the floating islands, not the lands of giants where no one agrees. In this journey, we are only following the places where there is a strong case, a real location, or a long-standing ancient tradition behind the name. We are skipping the highly doubtful stops, the places where the map becomes smoke. So this is not the complete Odyssey, it is something more interesting, a historical travel guide through the parts of Homer's world that still touch the modern map. And our journey begins where the war ended. The walls are burning. Ships wait by the shore. Behind Odysseus lies 10 years of war, blood, pride, and ruin. Ahead of him lies home, or so he thinks. In the Odyssey, Troy is not the main story. It is the shadow behind everything. Odysseus leaves as a survivor of the Trojan War, you know, that with the Trojan horse, carrying victory with him like a curse. Today, the place most strongly connected with ancient Troy is Hisarlik, near Çanakkale in modern Turkey. You can walk there, not through Homer's Troy exactly, not through a city frozen in one perfect legendary moment, but through layers of real ancient settlement. Walls, gates, stones from different ages stacked on top of each other like memory. The Odyssey begins with a place that is both archaeological and legendary. Troy is real enough to visit, but the story that leaves from Troy is already something larger than history. The ships land on a wealthy shore. Odysseus and his men attack. They take goods, they take captives. For a moment, it looks like victory. Then, the mistake becomes clear. They stay too long. The Cicones gather reinforcements from inland. By morning, Odysseus's men are no longer raiders. They are trapped. This is Ismaros, the first stop after Troy. And unlike many places in the Odyssey, this one is not floating in complete uncertainty. Homer names it the land of the Cicones at Ismaros. Today, it is usually connected with the Ismaros and Maronea region in Thrace, northern Greece. Here, there are no monsters, no goddesses, no one-eyed giants. Today the region is famous for its vineyards, continuing a wine tradition that stretches back to antiquity. The Odyssey begins with war habits that Odysseus cannot leave behind, and that mistake follows him out to sea. Now the route should be simple. Odysseus has escaped Troy and survived Ismaros. He is sailing toward home. Then he reaches Cape Malea. This is one of the most important turns in the entire Odyssey, because here the weather changes. The wind drives him off course. Cape Malea lies at the southeastern tip of the Peloponnese. For ancient sailors, this was not just a scenic headland, it was a dangerous corner of the Greek world, a place where winds could decide whether you made it home or disappeared into another story. In Homer's poem, Malea is the edge between the possible and the impossible. Before Malea, Odysseus is still on a recognizable route. After Malea, the Odyssey begins. That is the power of this place. The ships are pushed past Cythera. Home is no longer ahead. The wind has taken control. Cythera, or Cythera, is a real island south of the Peloponnese. In the Odyssey, it is part of the geography of disaster. It marks the last glimpse of a normal homeward route. After Cythera, the poem moves into stranger waters. That is why this stop is so useful in our guide. It is not a grand destination like Troy. It is a threshold, the point where the Mediterranean becomes a maze. And from here, many famous Odyssey locations become too uncertain for this video. All of them are fascinating and have proposed locations, but the evidence is too debated for the kind of route we are building here, so we pass over them. But the next place we keep is one of the strongest identifications in the whole tradition. The ship enters the narrow passage. Odysseus knows he cannot save everyone. If he sails too close to Charybdis, the sea may swallow the ship whole. If he sails towards Scylla, the monster may take some of the crew. Obviously, he chooses the side with Scylla. The men? They do not know what is coming. This is one of the darkest moments in the Odyssey. Odysseus survives because he chooses the smaller disaster. The later and long-standing identification of Scylla and Charybdis is the Strait of Messina between Sicily and Calabria, and when you look at the geography, you understand why. A narrow channel, powerful currents, and rocky coasts. A crossing that could feel terrifying to ancient sailors. Of course, Homer's monsters are not zoology, they are story, but stories often grow around real fears. And here the fear is easy to see. A ship caught between rock and whirlpool, a captain forced to choose who might live. In the Odyssey, the Strait of Messina is not just a beautiful strait, it is the place where the story asks one of its cruelest questions. What does leadership cost when every option is terrible? The men are starving. The island is quiet. Cattle graze under the sun. Odysseus has warned them, do not touch them, these are the cattle of Helios. But hunger is stronger than fear. While Odysseus sleeps, the men make their choice. They kill and eat the cattle. And from that moment, their fate is sealed. Thrinacia is commonly connected with Sicily, especially through the later ancient name Trinacria, the three-cornered island. This does not mean we can stand on one exact Sicilian field and say, this is the place mentioned in the Odyssey. We cannot, but the connection between Thrinacia and Sicily is old, strong, and widely repeated in ancient and modern discussion. In the story, this island is the final moral collapse of Odysseus's crew. They have survived storms, violence, and monsters, but they cannot survive their hunger. Every man who came with Odysseus from Troy is now moving toward death. Only Odysseus will reach Ithaca, and that makes the next destination feel different. Not like a homecoming, like a ghost returning. A man wakes on a shore he does not recognize. He has dreamed of this island for 20 years, but when he finally touches it, he does not know where he is. That is the strange cruelty of Ithaca. Home has become unfamiliar. Odysseus does not arrive in triumph. He arrives hidden, exhausted, and alone. Ithaca is real. The island still lies in the Ionian Sea, west of mainland Greece. It has been tied to Odysseus for centuries, and local sites on the island are still associated with the Homeric tradition. But the exact location of Odysseus's palace remains disputed. That uncertainty actually makes Ithaca more compelling, because in the Odyssey, Ithaca is not only a place, it is a test. Can Odysseus return without revealing himself too soon? Can he recognize loyalty after 20 years? Can he become king again without first becoming a stranger in his own house? For a traveler today, Ithaca is especially valuable because it lets you feel the central idea of the poem. The hardest journey is not always reaching home. Sometimes it is being recognized when you get there. The Odyssey is a story about a man trying to find his way home, but after almost 3,000 years, it leaves us with a different kind of journey, not just across the sea, across the border between myth and map, and somewhere on that border, Odysseus is still sailing.